The roar of the crowd still echoed in Ethan Caldwell's ears as he stumbled off the field, sweat dripping from his brow, his heart pounding not from the game, but from the weight of who he was supposed to be. At 19, he was Crescent Valley High's golden boy, the quarterback whose arm could thread a needle through a storm, the guy every cheerleader wanted and every teammate envied. But tonight, as the stadium lights dimmed and the small Oregon town cheered his name, Ethan felt like a fraud, a hollow shell wearing a hero's mask. He slipped away from the victory party, the laughter and beer-soaked chaos fading as he wandered toward the edge of town. The park by Willow Pond was his sanctuary, a place where the world's expectations couldn't follow. There, under the sprawling oaks, he found Sage Harper, the quiet 20-year-old non-binary scholar who made his heart race in ways no touchdown ever could. Sage sat on their favorite bench, nose buried in a worn copy of Giovanni's Room, their short, dyed blue hair catching the moonlight. They looked up, their sharp hazel eyes locking onto Ethan's. And without a word, they knew. They always knew. "You played like you were running from something tonight," Sage said, their voice soft but piercing, like they could see straight through him. Ethan dropped onto the bench beside them, his broad shoulders slumping. "Maybe I was," he muttered, his gaze fixed on the pond's glassy surface. Sage didn't push. They never did. That was what drew Ethan to them, the way they could unravel him with a glance. No force, no demands, just quiet certainty. In a town where everyone expected Ethan to be the unbreakable jock, Sage was the only one who saw the cracks. And God, did he want to break for them? Their hands brushed as Sage closed the book, and Ethan's breath hitched. "You don't have to be their hero. You know," Sage said, their fingers lingering against his. "You can just be." The words hit like a freight train, because Ethan didn't know how to just be. Not when his father, Coach Caldwell, had molded him into a machine of grit and glory. Not when the whole town saw him as their ticket to state championships. Not when he'd spent years burying the truth that he was gay. And the only time he felt alive was when Sage's quiet strength took him apart. The next morning, Ethan woke to the blare of his alarm, his body aching from last night's game. His father's voice boomed from downstairs. "Get up, champ. We're reviewing tape at 8. Ethan groaned, pulling on his Crescent Valley Hawks hoodie, the weight of his father's expectations heavier than the pads he wore on the field. Coach Caldwell was a legend in Crescent Valley, a former linebacker who'd turned the high school team into a regional powerhouse. Ethan was his legacy, and failure wasn't an option. At school, Ethan moved through the halls like royalty, fist-bumping teammates and flashing the grin everyone expected. But his eyes kept darting to Sage, who leaned against a locker, scribbling in a notebook. They wore a thrifted blazer over a faded band tee, their quiet confidence a stark contrast to the jock bravado around them. Sage was a transfer student from Portland, brilliant and unapologetically themselves, navigating Crescent Valley's small-town conservatism with a kind of fearless grace. They'd been out as non-binary since freshman year, weathering whispers and side-eyes with a shrug and a sharp quip. Ethan envied that freedom. "Yo, Caldwell." Jake, the team's wide receiver, slapped Ethan's shoulder. "Party at my place tonight. You in?" Ethan nodded, forcing a smile, but his mind was on Sage. He'd overheard Jake and the others mocking them once, tossing around words like freak and confused. Ethan had stayed silent, shame burning in his chest. He hated himself for it, but speaking up meant risking everything: his reputation, his father's approval, his place in this town. That afternoon, Ethan found Sage in the library, tucked into a corner with a stack of books on queer theory. "You're gonna read the whole damn shelf," he teased, sliding into the seat across from them. Sage smirked, pushing a strand of blue hair behind their ear. "Someone's gotta outsmart this place," they said. "You could try it sometime." Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I'm not like you, Sage. I can't just be out there. His words trembled with frustration, and Sage's expression softened. You think I'm not scared? They said. I just decided I'm more scared of hiding who I am than of what they'll say. Their hand reached across the table, stopping just short of his. What are you scared of, Ethan? He wanted to say everything. His father's rage, the team's rejection, the town turning on him. But most of all, he was scared of losing Sage, of not being enough for someone who seemed to have it all figured out. Before he could answer, the bell rang, and Sage stood, their gaze lingering. Find me at the pond tonight, they said, if you want to. That night, Ethan slipped away from Jake's party, the thump of music fading as he biked to Willow Pond. Sage was there, sitting cross-legged on the grass, sketching in their notebook. The moonlight cast shadows across their face, highlighting the sharp curve of their jaw, the intensity in their eyes. Ethan dropped beside them, his heart racing. What are you drawing? He asked, desperate to break the tension in his chest. Sage tilted the sketch toward Hema pencil drawing of the pond, with two figures on the bench, hands intertwined. Us, they said simply. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted that sketch to be real, wanted to be the guy who could hold Sage's hand in public, who could love them without fear. But he was trapped, caught between the life he was supposed to live and the one he craved. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Sage set the sketchbook down, their hand finding his. You don't have to know, they said. Just let me help you figure it out. They leaned closer, and Ethan's world narrowed to the warmth of their breath, the softness of their touch. When their lips met, it was like the first real breath he'd taken in years. Electric, terrifying, alive. The kiss lingered in Ethan's mind all week, a secret wildfire he couldn't extinguish. Every time he threw a pass at practice, every time his father barked orders, every time Jake slung an arm around him like they were brothers, he saw Sage's face, felt the press of their lips. It was dangerous, this feeling, but it was the only thing that made him feel whole. At school, he started noticing Sage more, how they moved through the world with quiet defiance, how they'd correct a teacher's outdated views in class with a calm, razor-sharp wit. Sage was majoring in sociology at the local community college, taking high school electives to save money, and their intellect intimidated Ethan as much as it drew him in. He wanted to be near them, to soak up their courage, but every step closer felt like a step toward a cliff. One afternoon, Ethan overheard Jake and a few teammates in the locker room, their voices low and cruel. That Harper kid thinks they're so smart, Jake sneered. But they're just confused, trying to be special. The others laughed, and Ethan's stomach churned. He wanted to speak up, to tell them to shut the hell up, but his feet stayed rooted, his mouth dry. When he finally mumbled an excuse and left, the shame followed him like a shadow. That evening, he found Sage at the pond again, this time with a thermos of coffee and 2 mugs. You look like you need this, they said, pouring him a cup. Ethan took it, his fingers brushing theirs, and the simple touch sent his heart into overdrive. I heard Jake today, he blurted, in the locker room, talking about you. Sage's expression didn't change, but their eyes hardened. Let me guess, they said. I'm a freak, right? Ethan winced. I didn't say anything. I should have. But, he trailed off, staring at the ground. Sage sipped their coffee, their silence louder than any accusation. Finally, they spoke. You're not ready, Ethan. And that's okay. But don't expect me to wait forever. The words cut deeper than he expected, because he knew they were true. Sage deserved someone who could stand by them, not someone hiding in the shadows. The next week, Ethan's world started to crack. His father noticed his distraction at practice, his passes sloppier, his focus gone. What's wrong with you, son? Coach Caldwell demanded, his voice like gravel. You're throwing away your future. Ethan wanted to scream that his future wasn't just football, that he was suffocating under the weight of his father's dreams. But he just nodded, muttering, "I'll do better." At school, rumors started swirling. Someone had seen Ethan biking to the pond at night, and Jake, ever the instigator, started asking questions. "You sneaking off to see someone?" "Caldwell," he teased in the cafeteria, loud enough for half the team to hear. Ethan's face burned, but he laughed it off, hating himself for every second of it. Sage, sitting across the room, caught his eye and looked away, their expression unreadable. That night, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He found Sage at the community college library, surrounded by books and laptops, their blue hair tucked under a beanie. "I'm sorry," he said, dropping into a chair, "for not saying anything. For everything." Sage closed their laptop, studying him. "You're not sorry for being scared," they said. "You're sorry you got caught feeling something." Ethan flinched, but he couldn't argue. Sage was right, they always were. "Tell me what you want." "Ethan," Sage said, their voice steady but laced with pain. "Because I can't keep doing this halfway." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to say he loved them, that he'd choose them over everything. But the word stuck. Instead, he reached for their hand. And for a moment, Sage let him hold it. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I swear I'm trying." The trying wasn't enough. By mid-October, the pressure was crushing Ethan from all sides. His father scheduled extra practices, convinced Ethan's slump was a phase he could drill out of him. The team was headed for the state playoffs, and every game felt like a referendum on Ethan's worth. At school, Jake's teasing grew sharper, his questions about Ethan's late-night disappearances laced with suspicion. "You got a secret girlfriend, or what?" he'd say, smirking, but his eyes were cold, searching. Ethan started avoiding Sage, not because he wanted to, but because every moment with them felt like a spotlight on his secrets. He'd see them in the halls, their gaze heavy with disappointment, and it killed him. One night, he skipped the pond entirely, staying home to scroll through old game footage, trying to drown out the ache in his chest. But his phone buzzed with a text from Sage. "You can't run forever. I'm here when you're ready." The words broke something in him. The next day, he found Sage outside the college's art studio, paint smudged on their cheek from a project. "I'm a coward," he said, his voice raw. Sage wiped their hands on their jeans, their expression softening. "You're not a coward," they said. "You're just stuck. But you're the only one who can get yourself out." They invited him into the studio, where their latest project a vibrant mural of intertwined hands in every shade of the rainbow covered one wall. "This is what I'm fighting for," Sage said, gesturing to the mural. "A world where no one has to hide. You could fight for that too, Ethan." He stared at the mural, his throat tight. He wanted to be part of that world, but the fear was a chain around his heart. That night, they kissed again, hidden in the shadows of the studio. It was desperate, hungry, like they were stealing time from a world that didn't want them to have it. Sage's hands cupped his face, their touch firm and grounding. And for the first time, Ethan let himself surrender completely. "You make me feel alive," he whispered against their lips. Sage smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Then live, Ethan," they said. "Really live." The state playoffs arrived, and Crescent Valley was electric with anticipation. Ethan threw himself into the games, channeling his turmoil into every pass, every sprint. The crowd roared his name, but it felt hollow. He was playing for them, for his father, for the lie he'd built his life around. After a grueling win, Jake cornered him in the locker room. "I saw you, man," he said, his voice low. "At the pond. With that Harper kid." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You're wrong." He lied. But Jake's smirk said he didn't believe it. The rumor spread like wildfire. By Monday, whispers followed Ethan through the halls. "Is he gay?" No way. Not Caldwell. His teammates started pulling away, their fist bumps replaced with awkward nods. His father noticed the shift, his face darkening. What's this I hear about you sneaking around? He demanded at dinner. Ethan mumbled something about studying, but Coach Caldwell's eyes narrowed. Don't screw this up. Ethan, you've got everything riding on you. Desperate, Ethan went to Sage. They were at the pond, sketching again, but they stood when they saw his face. They know, he said, his voice shaking. Jake saw us. It's all falling apart. Sage took his hands, their grip steady. Let it fall, they said. You don't need their approval to be you. But Ethan pulled away, panic clawing at him. You don't get it, he snapped. This is my life. My dad. The team. This town'll destroy me. Sage's face fell, and for the first time, Ethan saw hurt in their eyes. I thought you were stronger than that, they said quietly. They turned and walked away, leaving Ethan alone by the pond, the weight of his choices crushing him. The championship game was a blur. Ethan played like a machine, leading the Hawks to victory, but the cheers felt like static. His father slapped his back, calling him a hero, but Ethan couldn't meet his eyes. After the game, Jake approached, his expression softer than before. Look, man, I don't get it, he said. But you're still my quarterback. It wasn't acceptance, but it was something. Ethan nodded, too tired to speak. That night, he went to the pond, hoping Sage would be there. They weren't. He sat on their bench, staring at the carved sign, "Love finds its own playbook." The words mocked him, a reminder of what he'd pushed away. He pulled out his phone and texted Sage, "I'm ready. I'm done hiding." No response came. The next day, Ethan found Sage at the college, presenting their mural at an art showcase. The room was packed, and Sage stood tall, their voice steady as they spoke about identity and resilience. Ethan watched, his heart swelling with pride and regret. When the crowd dispersed, he approached, his hands shaking. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was scared, but I'm not anymore. I want to be with you, Sage, out in the open." Sage studied him, their eyes searching. "You mean it?" they asked. Ethan nodded, stepping closer. "I love you," he said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. A few heads turned, but Ethan didn't care. Sage's smile was worth it, bright and unguarded. They took his hand, and for the first time, Ethan felt free. Months later, Ethan came out to his father. It was messy shouts, tears, silence, but Coach Caldwell didn't disown him. The team was harder, some turning their backs, but others, like Jake, stood by him. Crescent Valley wasn't perfect, but it was changing, one step at a time. Ethan and Sage built a life together, their love a quiet rebellion against a world that tried to define them. Every night by the pond, Ethan remembered that first kiss, the moment he'd chosen to live. And with Sage beside him, he knew he'd choose it again.